What do you make of what we heard yesterday?
I agree. No surprises. We'll see what happens with the rollout of these executive orders. But overall, the balance sheet of yesterday's inauguration, I'd say no surprises.
Well, no surprises, sure, and perhaps people were already prepared to launch their legal challenges to executive orders like that. You've already seen several states' attorneys general launching a lawsuit over birthright citizenship, specifically Donald Trump suggesting that the U.S. is the only country that does that. That is not factually true, but I do wonder what would change with the pattern of migration, theoretically, if that really were to end, if those legal challenges were not to do as they have set out to accomplish, which is make sure that Donald Trump is not successful in ending this practice.
Yeah, I think we'd see major consequences on the labor side. For example, I do a lot of Latin America work. 5% of the workforce in this country is of Mexican descent. And, given the clauses of this EO, who knows how many of these would be ineligible to stay in the U.S. I think it would have a huge impact on the labor force and therefore the economy. Nothing happens in a silo at the end of the day.
We were just discussing the move to shut down the CBP-1 immigration app. This is a big deal for thousands of families that were actually in the queue to go through the process, to be interviewed. What does this mean for them?
And yet you still see a big caravan in Mexico's southern border that seems to be undeterred by the fact that Donald Trump is in the Oval Office again. That tells you something about the conditions that they are escaping in their home countries. It's a big caravan that was covered in the Mexican front pages today. Now you have thousands of people in a limbo, which certainly won't help with certainty in this country.
And it's not like they're going to the back of the line. There is no line now.
Yeah, in limbo. We have yet to see what the new process will be, should there be one.
Well, we know that Donald Trump wants the new process to be you stay in Mexico until the U.S. tells you that there is a place for you to actually come in. To what extent are these policies only going to work if they have the buy-in of Mexico, of people like Claudia Sheinbaum or other leaders in Latin America?
President Sheinbaum has already said that she will be accepting people from third countries, despite having said before that that wouldn't be the case. We also saw earlier last week, before Donald Trump took office, that a number of countries from across the region, Belize, Guatemala, some of the big countries where migrants are coming from, they met in Mexico City to talk about a regional approach to the migration issue. And I think that there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in how the countries are, in a way, banding together to, I wouldn't say counteract President Trump, but to put solutions on the table that perhaps wouldn't have been the case were you to have a different person in the Oval Office today.
Well, we also have a new designation on the drug cartels in Mexico as terror organizations. Donald Trump's right. It's something that's been discussed for a long time. It invokes, though, the idea, the prospect of military attacks against these cartels inside a sovereign country, not unlike we would attack terror groups inside of Afghanistan. What would Mexico do with that? What would the Mexican government's reaction be if that is our new reality?
Well, we've seen a lot of, in the front pages again today, a lot of, different narratives. But basically, this is going to push President Sheinbaum in a more security policies that are more hardline, more like we saw with President Calderon back in the early 2000s. Yeah. And in fact, she already has harder security policies than her predecessor had. President López Obrador, who had a more of hugs, not bullets approach. Right. When she was mayor of Mexico City, she was very pragmatic, very scientific, very methodical in how she approached the city's homicides and security issues, and she had great results. That's part of the reason why she's president today, because of that legacy that she has. We've already seen Mexico implement harder policies with fentanyl seizures, like we saw in Sinaloa a couple weeks ago. Yeah. This is going to push Mexico in that direction.
Could we ask you as well, Maria, about Panama? Because in addition to a lot of talk about the border yesterday, we had a lot of talk about expanding U.S. borders, including this notion that Donald Trump wants to get control back of the Panama Canal. Panama, very quick to say, nope, it's staying in our hands. We are not going for that. But do you see this as a real threat, an area that could get contentious? As he's said, he's not ruling out potentially military action to get this done.
It is for sure an issue to watch. The canal is Panamanian. There's a long history there. And China does control 2 ports, but the canal is operated by Panamanian authorities, by the Panama Canal Authority, which is pretty independent.